I just want to wrap up our presentations, and we want to wrap it up strong, all right? We want to just get through this one. Again, I hope you're taking notes, because then we're just going to go through a round of questions for all our presenters. And now we're looking at building generational wealth through real estate investing, looking at what you can actually do strategically from the point that you are now. And this is going to be presented to us by Wallesa Nyawo, who is the Head of Business Development and Structured Finance at Integrated Properties. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Candice. It's a bit difficult to be the last speaker. Well, I know you guys want to go and have the cocktail. So do I. So I am going to try to make this very quick. So like Candice said, my name is Wallesa Nyawo. Both of them are complicated. The name, the surname. My name is Wallesa Nyawo. I am with an organization that is called Intergrated Properties. We're real estate, sustainability, engineering and project management consultancy. Our CEO, Dr. Mike Eric Drew, was originally supposed to come and make the presentation, but unfortunately he had to travel. So I'm here. He's a big man, so it's big shoes to fill, but I'm gonna do my best, okay? And I guarantee you that, you know what, after we are done, I think there will be a few things around real estate that you will have also appreciated. So I just changed the topic a bit to just say building generational wealth through alternative investments, because there's just a part that we also thought we wanted to talk about there. So allow me to just learn. So the presentation will be available. We'll avail the presentation, because I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, the entire presentation. I'm just going to play around 2 slides that I really think are very, very important. So this is what the presentation contains. When you have it, you can go through it and you'll be able to get an appreciation of what it is that we've captured for you in the presentation. But I'm just going to spend a little bit of time on just these issues. So you've got your traditional investments. I think after everything that's been discussed here, you have an appreciation of what traditional investments are. So that's your stocks or your equities, right? You're looking at your Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, you're looking at your VFX, you're also looking at bonds. So here you have even your treasury bills, your bonds. We usually don't have bonds in Zimbabwe. So bills are just a shorter version of bonds with a maturity of less than a year. Then you've got obviously your money market investments, or what is commonly called cash. So as real estate practitioners, we find ourselves in an area that is commonly referred to now as alternative investment. So it's a new way of investing that's a bit different from the traditional methods of investing. So you have under traditional investments quite a few asset classes, real estate being one of them. You have private equity, you have private debt. So I just make a quick comment and say, when you look at private equity and private debt, at times it is considered an asset, and it's also considered a financing mechanism. You're either financing using equity or you're financing using debt. So I'll explain that using this slide. So I'm not going to proceed beyond this slide. I'll just be working here and then going back to the previous slide. So when you look at every investor, you're basically faced with 3 decisions that you've got to make. So the first decision you have to make is an investment decision. You're basically answering a very simple question here. Should I invest or should I not invest? Should I or should I not? How do I evaluate whether I should invest or I should not invest? So in real estate, it's the same thing. Should I invest? Should I not invest? Should I buy? Should I not buy? Then the second issue is, how am I going to buy? Am I going to use my own money or am I going to borrow? So at corporate level, it's either you are investing your own resources or you are going to look to get a facility externally. Then you now have the cash decision in real estate, where we say, when do you really want the cash? So are you looking for periodic cash flows? You want to be getting your cash maybe on a monthly basis, where we are talking about rental income? Or are you looking at, let me hold, then I'm going to sell in the future. I need a lump sum somewhere in the future, so I'm holding the asset for potential, I'm going to use the word potential capital appreciation, because there is this myth that real estate will always appreciate in value. And that is not always the case. Real estate has the potential to appreciate in value. But at times it may not be like that. Location and other factors play a very, very important role in the appreciation of value in real estate. So even as you consider investing in real estate, this is something that you really need to think about. So here I'm going to start with the financing decision. The issue of the investment decision, should I invest in this property? Now the first thing that is written there is that due diligence is non-negotiable. It depends on how you pronounce it, due diligence or due diligence. But whatever way you pronounce it, here is the thing. It must be done. The problem we are having with you guys is you're not doing due diligence. For whatever reason, when it comes to real estate, everybody knows. And everybody wants to make a quick buy, quick decision. Recently, I'm glad my brother from NASA is here. So when we met, we were discussing, and I was saying to him, we were at your offices, you guys, recently. We're making a presentation. We did feasibility studies as an organization for 9 NASA land banks around the country. They needed to make an investment decision. They needed to say, before we think about what we're going to do with this land, tell us what is feasible, what is not feasible. Here is the problem. You guys are doing it for the organizations that you work for. We are doing this like for NASA and other pension funds. We are doing this for banks. Right? We've just completed another feasibility study for a land bank in Pomona Industrial Park for a bank. We are doing this for other corporates. You are the ones who are requesting us to do it for the corporate. When it comes to your own personal real estate investments, you don't even want to hear about us. You go and you invest without due diligence. Now, I'm not necessarily saying come to us as Intergrated Properties, but I'm saying there are registered real estate entities that can help you. Right? If you go to the Estate Agents Council, you can walk in and say, give us a list of registered real estate agents, and we want to go and talk to them. We want to make an investment decision. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about here. We are managing a property. We're managing a project, a land development project in Chishawasha. It's a huge piece of land, and part of it, if you look at where Chishawasha Hills is, behind Chishawasha Hills, right? This property shares the border with Chishawasha Hills. You have an executive from a respected company. He goes there and he buys a stand from Esabuku. He pays $50,000 to Esabuku. I'm looking at the guy and I'm asking him, so you gave $50,000 to this guy? And you're okay doing it. You came to his hut, I'm not exaggerating. You come to a hut with $50,000 and you leave $50,000 for a stand. It's amazing, some of the things. We are looking at 3. We had to find ways to regularize those sales, but they lost the money. What they paid, you know what the Sabuku did? He went to Holiday Inn. He spent about 2 weeks there. He was telling his friends, that's it. With money, that is. So what I'm basically saying when it comes here around the investment decision is you're putting your money. This is money that you're looking at investing for your wealth, for your future. The least you can do is just perform a basic due diligence. Just do a process. Just try to understand who holds the title deed. Who is the owner of this property? If anything, just come through and will assist you to ascertain some of those things. You are putting in money, you are losing money. The same processes that you want us to do for your organizations, please allow us to do them for you personally. Because you are losing money. Most of the time, they come and say, don't take a property. Okay, the next thing, you're trying to understand, but it's already done. Right? So you're making at times decisions without information. Come through, let's work together so that we deal with that issue. The second issue I want to talk about here is we have noticed with a lot of you that it's your principal private resident that you are interested in. So everybody wants to own a house, right? I want to own my own. I want to own my own house. But what we are noticing is there is a tendency to over-invest in the principal property. So you're putting too much money in that one. What it then affects is you're not able to then get another property where you can now start thinking about building a property portfolio. Because you're taking all of the money, you're putting it into one, you want to buy this one very ridiculously big property, and at times you end up putting too much money. You want so many things there. But what we are saying is it possible at times, even if you get a facility for 400,000, 500,000, can you consider acquiring 2 properties instead? The advantage that gives you is one of the properties can then be your principal private residence, right? Then the other one you can actually start considering even using it as for leverage purposes. You can borrow against that property because you understand the fear. You then don't want to lose your principal property. But if you've got another one, you can leverage. You can borrow on it. You can start business. You can do other things using that property. But if you've only got one, the other thing that you then notice with these properties is that at times even the planning around the stand. So you have a 4,000 square meter stand. The house is built smack in the middle of the stand. Right there, in the middle. What then that means is that you are unable to optimize the whole stand. So 4,000 square meters is occupied by one thing. In future, if you've got the property positioned properly even on the stand, you're able to then optimize the rest of the land. You can monetize it. If you go along Border Road, you will see the First Capital is building their head office there. If you just pay attention to the location of the building, you will see that they brought the building forward, right? It's not at the center of the property. They are thinking long term. You're making those decisions again for the organizations that you work for. You're not making the same investment decisions for your own selves. So saying, let's think about this. We are also realizing that you're not thinking about property as an investment. You're only thinking about property as a residence. But most of the time you then realize in the future, even after you are done, you've now reached the age where the kids are gone. You now have this very, very big property, 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, 8 bedrooms. We had someone giving us a property to sell, the property had 8 bedrooms, 16 lock-up garages. Say, why did you even build? He says, I have got 8 kids. I was hoping that they would come back and then they would stay with us here. But you sent all the kids to America, and the kids are like, we are settled here. We're not coming back. Now, this property was sitting on a floor area of 1,200 square meters. Floor area of the property. 2.5 million. Okay, the person who's going to buy it, what do they want to do with that property? So already you now have got an asset that you can't monetize. You can't generate any cash from it when you look at the cash decision. You can't dispose of it. Right? Some properties we then try to optimize. For example, you can actually then say, let us make it a training center for a corporate, right? But it's not every property that you can do that depending on the location. So the investment decision is very, very important. Okay? Let's think about this in our own personal capacities. The same decisions you're making for the companies, make them for your own selves. Then I'm just going to also then just mention quickly. Consider other options. We have this obsession with wanting to own the entire property. I must own it. 100% it must be mine. There are options. You had even other options that Ken presented. We are saying there are other options for you to invest in real estate that are beyond you just putting in all your money. 100% of it, you are then owning it. There are other options for you. Some of the options that you are actually pursuing for the organizations that you lead, that you're working for. You've got options like lease. You lease, you build, and then title is actually given to you. You've got options where you are leasing, you're operating, and then probably you are then buying out. You've got those options where you purchase a property without title. You purchase it, you develop it, then once you have met the development conditions, you are then getting a title. The advantage is that you are enjoying that the organizations are enjoying, is that they are getting those pieces of land at values that are below market. Because the property is not yet titled, right? So you are getting the property at below market, you are developing it, and after you develop it, you can then get the title deed after you've met the development conditions. We're saying those options are also available to you, especially where council is involved or where the local government is involved. The local government has got parcels of land that they are selling, right? They sell, there's no title deed yet, but you can purchase, you can have an agreement of sale with local government, or you can have a lease agreement with local government. It becomes cheaper for you. Then you develop, after you develop, they would then, once you meet the development conditions, they are going to give you your title deed. So there are options. REITs is another option. When you look at the REIT concept, the Real Estate Investment Trust, the idea behind REITs was to unitize property, right? It was an inclusion mechanism to then say, how do we get people to invest in property who may not have the full equity value to actually own the entire property? So break down the property into units, and then you can then come through and buy a few units. But for example, when you look at the Tigere REIT, even when it came out, there seemed to be apathy from individuals around getting units in REITs. So you end up realizing that institutions are the ones that end up being the subscribers in the REITs. But the idea behind it is that let's break the property down into units. You can get it. Somebody else is managing the property. What you are getting is a dividend, because a REIT is required to pay out at least 80% of its income as a dividend. So you are guaranteed a dividend. So when you look at it long term, you are not responsible for managing the property. You don't own the entire property. All you own is a unit. And based on the units that you own, you are getting a dividend. So those are options that you can consider on when you look at around the investment decision. I'll then just also quickly related to that will be the financing decision, where you've got an option around equity, around debt. So there are structures where you can think about at individual levels, where you can bring in debt into a property. For example, I'll give this as an example. You've got a lot of buildings in Harare at the moment, right? They are really worn out. Some of them are actually not even functional. So we had a transaction that we did, for example, last year at Intergrated properties, where it was a block of flats that was owned by a quasi-government institution. So we came into them, we said, look, we can have this property renovated and it can be let out, right? So it was a very basic facility, right? We have the property for 36 months, right? We raise funding, we renovate it, we're actually going to lease it out for 36 months, and then after 36 months, we're giving it back to you. So what we had in mind then was because what was needed there was about 400,000. So the idea was, let's approach 10 people, 40,000, they then actually fund, they're getting interest, they are also going to benefit if there's any upside on the rentals for 36 months, and then we hand it back. So depending, like I said, on the cash decision that you've got, these are some of the options that you can actually look at. Again, from a financing point of view, a REIT is something that you can also look at. You don't have to go all in equity, 100%. You don't. You've got to look at options. When you look at collective investment schemes, which is the idea behind REITs, if you look at, most of you are already doing these things. You're calling them what? Rotating savings and credit schemes, ROSCAs, or rounds. You guys are pooling funds together for something. Some want to buy groceries, others they want to buy cars, right? We're saying you can do the same even with property, right? Let's pool the funds together, and then together we can actually own a property. We unitize it, and then you've got a unit. So the property is being let out. You've got a unit. You're getting a portion of the rent. It's not yours 100%, but you're getting rental income from it, which will be yours for the economic life of the property, which can be up to 60 years. Recently, we responded to a tender from the Old Mutual Investment Group. They have a piece of land, it's public information, so I can talk about it. They have a piece of land in Bluffview, 10 hectares. So they said, our contribution as Old Mutual is going to be the land. We are looking for a partner who's going to come in and say, we are going to develop. You bring in the funding, you come in, you do the development, you tell it what it is in it for us, given our land contribution. Now this is Old Mutual. Old Mutual. Why is Old Mutual not going at it on their own? Right? So why do you want to go at it on your own every time you think about real estate? If you try to consider joint ventures, they are contractual joint ventures, where you can just have a contract between you and the landowner. There is a landowner, you are coming in to put in the structures, and you have an agreement. Whether it's a long lease, right? Some are getting into long leases where they build. Over 25 years, they are collecting rent and they are sharing with the landowner. Then after 25 years, you can then agree, then say, let's have a valuation. then the valuation is done, you then get back your portion of the investment. These things are happening. We're saying there are options in real estate that you can also look at. So before, as I close, I just want to talk about something that has been coming up in real estate. The issue of sustainability in real estate, the issue of green buildings. This is a topical issue in real estate. If you go down 7th, Border Road, if you get Panachi Table, just by corner, you see a building that is coming up. That building is called the Harare Afreximbank Africa Trade Center. Once I'm done, I'll play the video of that building for you. That building belongs to Afreximbank. So it is a building that is going to have a hotel, 10 stories, 129 rooms is going to be a hotel. It's going to have a conferencing center, and it's going to be having offices. So we have the privilege as Intergrated Properties of being the letting agent for that building. But that building is a green building. And one of the things about that building is that because it is a green building, it's going to be certified by the Green Building Council of Zimbabwe. You actually can be very picky around the tenants that we want. So there's a certain tenant type that we are looking for, firstly. But we also have a certain tenant type that we are attracting. So you've got tenants that now have got a preference for green buildings. They've got a preference for sustainable buildings. They want buildings that are thinking about water efficiency, that are thinking about water recycling. So when you think about the future even of your investments in property, you also want to be thinking about how can we look at these tenants? How can we look at creating properties that will be ideal for these type of tenants? So you will notice that embassies, for example, because they are home countries, are advanced in as far as sustainability and green buildings is concerned. They are looking, now when they are looking even for accommodation for their people, they have got certain accommodation that they are looking for. They will ask you issues around waste management. What is the waste management plan of this building? They will ask you issues around renewable energy. What is the renewable energy plan? Is this building off the grid? Can it be off the grid if there is need? Is there water harvesting? Is there wastewater recycling? Right? Is there grey water? So all of these things are things that you also need to think about as you start thinking about the future. So there are two issues that you have to look at. The first thing, when you look at issues to do with climate change, you've got the issue to do with adaptation. Then you've got the issue to do with mitigation. When you talk about mitigation, you're saying buildings have got a negative effect on the environment, right? So buildings produce greenhouse gases. So they probably contribute 40 to 50%. When you then look at the whole building ecosystem, it can actually go up to 60%. Now here is the issue. Buildings, now there's a lot of pressure on buildings for them to actually be green, to be sustainable, so that they don't have a negative impact on the environment. So that's the mitigation part. So when you start thinking about introducing renewable energy or having buildings that use renewable energy, the thought process around there is let's try to make buildings be less harmful on the environment. So there are clients that are looking for that, to then say, your building, how much is it configured so that it doesn't have a negative impact on the environment? Then the second issue which affects us the most in Zimbabwe is the issue around adaptation. It is the impact of the changing environment on your buildings. So you can have a building that is then not set up properly to adjust to changes in temperature. So now you've got increase in temperature, for example. Can the building adjust properly? So that has got an impact even in terms of your tenants. You had a few years ago the issue to do with Cyclone Idai. There are buildings that were affected. How ready are the buildings that we have to be able to deal with the effects of climate change on the building? So even as we start thinking about buildings, this is something that you need to think about even as you are going to be investing in real estate. How is the building going to be affected? So even the value of the building. You will notice that if you look at the Valuers Council of Zimbabwe right now, they are working on how they can introduce what they call ESG evaluations. What this is going to do is it's going to, the environmental, social, and governance issues are going to be incorporated into the values of properties. So depending on how your property is affected by the environment, or the effect it has on the environment, the property's value can actually come down. So if you've got a property that you're holding on that you're saying, I didn't want to dispose of it because I want a certain cash flow in the future, you may actually get below market value if the property is susceptible to climate change, or has got a negative impact on the environment or on society. So these are issues that you need to look at. This is something that they are working on effective January 2025. For some organizations, even the valuations that are being done. So I'm just saying, as you think about investing, also think about these issues around green issues, sustainability. Look at your building and think around those issues, even in terms of the tenants that you may get, or in terms of the value of the building. So I'll end with a story. I talked earlier about private equity. Around about 2017, I had an opportunity like this one, where I was invited to speak. There's a little business that my partner and I were running. We started it in 2014. So we were actually called in to be last minute speakers. The speaker couldn't come. So we went and we made the presentation about our business. So after the presentation, a guy walks up to me. I'll call his name Bob. Gave me his business card. He said, I'm interested in your business. I like it. Let's talk. So when I told my business partner, look, somebody is interested in our business. He wants to talk. All right. So what I'm going to talk about here just a bit is going to be on the area of private equity. As I said, I just changed the title and we talk about alternative investments. We went and we saw him, and he was interested in our business. He wanted to invest in that small business. He wanted to invest. Part of what he wanted to invest was equity. Part of it was debt. Now at that moment, we were also trying to raise funding from a development finance institution, about 250,000. But one of the conditions that they had was that for every dollar they were going to give us, we needed it matched by local funding. So we had knocked on the doors of banks we had, and then we were saying, because they wanted that letter of commitment in order for them to be able to then to give us this 250,000. It was good money because it was 0% interest. It was 0% interest. Well, actually 350,000. 200,000 of it was an interest-free loan. 150,000 was going to be a grant. So it was good for our business. But we're basically having difficulties finding funding until that guy actually then made contact with us. So he invested initially a small amount of money into our business. Then he increased it. Like I said, part of it was debt. Right? So I'm just talking about private equity and private debt. So this is, when you talk about private debt, this is just basically debt from individuals. It's not your traditional debt from banks or from bonds. You're looking at an individual actually giving a debt to an enterprise, like ours. This is a true story. So when we then went to make the presentation to them, we now had a letter that was actually where there was a commitment that we would then get this amount of money, right? We're happy. Then we managed to get the funding. We got the funding. When we went there were 4 entities from Zimbabwe that made that presentation. 3 of them were successful. And of the 2 of us that were successful, when we then came to raise funding, we both were able to then to get that funding locally in Zim from individuals. That's private equity. But here is the issue. This guy that I'm going to call Bob, there are 2 things that he did. Over and above giving us funding, right? He took up an equity stake in the business. He didn't even take a lot of it. All he wanted was negative control. He just needed just about 25% or just over, which would enable him to influence the decisions that we were going to make so that we wouldn't go in a direction that probably he did not agree with since he was putting in money. That's number 1, right? The second issue that he did is that he actually was willing to sit on our board and provide us with technical advice. So this is an element of private equity that I also think is very important that I talk to you about. Whether you're going to be thinking about it as an investor or you're going to be thinking about it as an investee, where you've got your business that is going to be looking at funding, it's an option that is available. It is there, right? At times it's an issue of you going to look for that. It's an issue of you also being willing, if you're a business owner, to give up part of your business so that you can actually invite in someone who will come in and take an equity stake in your business, right? Or it's something that you can also do. Bob walked in and he's the one who gave me the business card. I didn't go looking for him, or we didn't go looking for him. I would encourage the CEOs in here to think about retirement. There are options. There are young people out there who have got businesses that they are running, who've got things that they have started, they are doing amazing things. What they need at times is an investor. And at times some of you have got those free funds. But again, the issue is due diligence. It was an investment decision. I'm not saying go and invest. I'm saying you do your due diligence and then you invest, right? You can even consider a debt instrument that you can give to these businesses. But what is important is that you also consider giving them your time. Technical advice. You had just here, when we were hearing about from where it is very important that there is grooming, there is training for these young people. You're able to take them to the next level. When Bob came into our little organization, I think we had around 3 branches. Right now, our little organization has got about 30 branches around Zimbabwe. He helped us to grow, not only financially, but he also helped that organization to grow in terms of our understanding of business. I didn't know what a shareholders agreement looked like. He came and he taught us those things, right? He came and made us understand how boards meet, how boards sit, the decisions that are made in boards. You can do that because you've got the experience, you're already doing it. What you have to have is the ability to go and identify those companies. Old Mutual, for example, have got some that they run, they call it 8 to 5. It's like an incubation hub. Stanbic Bank has got the same thing, right? I'm just talking about the ones that I know. You can go even and attend and hear this. You can actually find businesses that you may be interested in investing in. Now here's the thing that I just want to say in conclusion. So I'll just play a video of the Harare Afro-Exim and Africa Trade Center as I will be leaving. But the thing that I want to say is this. Bob, the guy who invested in our business, and the guys that invested in the other organization that I said, because we went to get the money from Kenya, both of them were white guys in Zimbabwe. We got money from Bob, he's a white guy. The other entity, they got money from another guy, but he's a white guy. So the thing that you then notice is, right, it's not a race issue necessarily, but you notice that there are people that are willing to take risks and invest in small businesses in Zimbabwe. The surprising thing is that most of them are white guys. I'm going to challenge us in here to then say, there are businesses that you can invest in. If others are seeing that opportunity, for example, Bob he actually has dual citizenship. He was not born in Zimbabwe. He came to Zimbabwe. He saw the opportunities in Zimbabwe and is investing in businesses in Zimbabwe. As we were registering to be a director of the entity, one of the things he had to do was he had to declare some of the directorships that he had. He actually had 24 other entities, like our entity, where he had invested. And we were the 25th. At the time we met him, he was telling me about retirement. And he would always tell me, this is part of my retirement plan. Now he has retired. Right? He's no longer working. But we're working for him in a way, right? Because he's benefiting from the businesses that he helped to grow. So you can also do the same thing. I'll just challenge you that you look at the area of alternative investments, real estate, private equity, private debt. There are opportunities that are there in Zimbabwe. There are opportunities that you can consider as part of your retirement plan. But what is critical in all of them is going to be due diligence. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a good evening. I'm just going to ask my friend to just play the video. You can even put out the sound. You can put out the sound so that you can just see the building that is coming up, the Harare Afro-Exim Bank, Africa Trade Center. If you'll be interested in, like I say, it is a center for intra-trade in Africa. We're looking at exporters, you're looking at importers, you're looking at financiers, you're looking at entities that are involved in trade in Africa. They can come and be tenants there because it's an ecosystem. The idea behind it is an ecosystem. So if you're part of a trade ecosystem in Africa, this can be a building that can actually be good for you as a tenant. If you're also looking at a green building, a sustainable building, when you're looking at a building that has got green features, this is also a place that you can come to. Otherwise, thank you very much.
All right, so I'm just going to...
So like I said, this building is called the Harare Afro-Exim Bank Africa Trade Center. It is part of 7 buildings that Afro-Exim Bank is building around Africa. So while this building will be based in Harare, it is actually a regional trade center that is serving SADC. So it will be the SADC office for Afro-Exim Bank, As you know, Afrexim actually are currently a tenant at Eastgate, but they are going to be moving here. They are going to occupy 3 offices. Then the other 4 offices are going to be available for tenants. So there is a hotel that is there, like I said, 129 room hotel, 10 stories. It's going to be operated by Onomo. That's going to be the operator. They are also an operator that is based in South Africa. It's going to be a 4-star hotel. Then it's also going to have a conference center that is going to be there, right? Then it's like a platform. It's not necessarily a ground floor. This is what we are showing here. We're going to have kiosks. You're going to have a little bit of small retail that is going to be there. Then here is just going to be showing the workplace, the workstations. So what a tenant is going to get here is going to be a gray box. You will configure it according to your own requirements. But you're going to be getting a gray box, right? And then you then configure it the way that you want. But there are going to be co-working spaces that are going to be available. There are going to be shared meeting rooms, shared boardrooms. There are going to be things like secretarial services, language translation services. They will be available here. Then parking, there are 3 basement levels of parking, as well as other parking that is available. So the office space is available to that. Unfortunately, the hotel already has an operator, and the conferencing facility is also going to be available for those that would then want to be. So it's integrated properties. We are, like I said, one of the letting agents. There are 2. We are one of the letting agents for that property. So if it is a property that you think excites you, and you think you may be interested in being a tenant at the property, you can actually come and see me, or you can come to our office at Eastgate, Greenbridge, 6th floor, Greenbridge, Eastgate, and we can talk, or if you need more details. But like I said, there are 2 issues that you need to be able to prove. The first one is that how are you going to contribute to be part of the trade ecosystem that is going to be there. Then the second issue is what is going to be your sustainability vision as a business, so that we know how we are going to be contributing to the sustainability thrust that the building is all about. Otherwise, I thank you very much again, Candice. Thank you very much for listening.
All right. Now, we are going to open it up for questions. So we're going to take a few quick questions for either Dr. Louis, for Sebastian wouldn't even let me finish. Okay. For Dr. Louis, for Norman, and for Wallesa.
You know, mine is really, thank you for the opportunity. Mine is really to encourage all of us. When you looked at that video, did you see something about, and which has been topical right through all the presentations? They require you to have a vision. If you looked at that building, can you see that? You can even see the other buildings. You can even see how things will play out. This is what we must do while employed. If you look at the text my sister talked about, every topic that has been talked about, it requires you to know where you are going, so that you can interact with all these other things. So just encouraging you, let's fight the spirit to tangira ipapo. You know, I'm everywhere. Tomorrow I'll be teaching here at this hotel. I can tell you, people will be like, what's your plan to tangira ipapo? Canada's will see us and open church. This picture is showing us that the best way to do it is to have the vision. The vision. And you used it well done, my brother. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much to all the presenters that have come through. I think my question is directed to Dr. Louis. From what you've said, looking at the family business that you've been running for the past 114 years through the generations, and from what you also said is you have been able to work as a family in harmony. But some of the experiences that we have had is whereby it has been difficult sometimes to work with family members. Maybe sometimes it doesn't matter where the family member is from, whether it is within the extended family, where you have married, it depends. Because you see most of the times depending on maybe who is running with the business, there is the entitlement mentality. There are issues around non-performance, where somebody is saying, because maybe it is my brother's business or it is my sister's business, I can do whatever I want. How have you managed to deal with those issues over the years, or over those generations that we are looking at? Because when we start businesses as families, it's because we are looking at the generations to come after us. But sometimes you may not find the interest maybe in the family, or they just don't want to work. All that they want is to simply benefit from the business. What tips can you give family business?
So I think there's a number of questions there. So the first thing is that for some unknown reason, there's no problems with us of non-performance. I've got no idea that, I wondered if it's just because you just know you've got pressure to perform, you see your brother working hard, you can't just sit at the beach. So I really think it's interesting with the 5 boys, non-performance is maybe, if you've got a culture of hard work and setting the standards, I think, I don't know what it is, but maybe it's something that we're just blessed with. Definitely the issue of conflict and strife is something that we've managed many, many times. So I want to ask you, as I told you, my one brother started a bank in Switzerland, and the bank collapsed, and the whole European operation collapsed afterwards. Do you think you would still think your brother's the golden child? So, and the problem didn't come really with the brothers, but it came with the wives. And it actually led exactly what we also heard today, 2 divorces of my brothers. Because the wives thought, that the income's not what it's going to be, and they didn't know how to handle it. But we stayed together. And definitely there's a lot of personality differences. But I was also listening to what Sebastian said about the whole thing about stress, and you need to share, or it was the topic on stress management. Do you know when my brother walks in, I already know if he's stressed or not, because I know them for 50 years. So, it's not a question that he needs to be transparent with me and say, listen, I'm not feeling well today. I know it when I see him. But not because I'm the eldest, not only do I know that he's not feeling well, I know exactly how I must manage him. Because the way I manage him is different to the way I manage another brother. So I think in our family it was a lot about the broader family, the wives, that we had to manage more than the brothers. I think that is that. And was there any other question you asked that I didn't answer? So I think non-performance we've dealt with. I think the whole thing about conflict. It's difficult family, but I think it's a mindset. You must make this thing work. It's come a long way. Don't let it frighten you off. Family businesses. Oh, I just wanted to make a very important comment. I've got a son, if I can say, and a daughter. My daughter's an advocate, and my son has specialized in blockchain, and he's sitting in New York. 2 extremely, extremely gifted and talented children, and not one of them are interested to go to the family. So why am I saying that to you is because you need to give if you're a spiritual person, you need to let your child fulfill their calling and their purpose for their own lives. It's not about your life, So, and to say to you honestly, I'm not even sad about it, So, because I want them to be alive and to be individuals, but they know that they can come there tomorrow, and that will please my heart. So, there's a difference. And they're young. My son is 29, 30. My daughter's 32. Who knows what happens in the future? You've got generations to come, you know. So let them be in their seasons, encourage them, love them, and yeah, I think that's my comment.
I think also speaking to your issue, Manyara, Dr. Lee, perhaps maybe help me if I misunderstood or if I'm wrong. Now, you did mention earlier the fact that you need to also understand that not all the children, in this instance, the 5 brothers will be the same. And by being part of the family business is not necessarily saying that they're working in exactly the same spaces, but you've understood who is talented where and allowed them to become competent in the areas of their talent, which then I think speaks to the areas of competency. Because if somebody is already talented or passionate about the particular area that they've been put in the family business, they will play their part without needing to be prodded or poked too much. And of course there will be squabbles here and there, but because it's an area they're already very passionate about, they will be able to carry it forward.
No, that's right. But just remember, everybody's got their talent and their gift, but it changes. So let me give you a very good example about it. Is that you heard that I told you my 3rd eldest brother was the one that was very business-minded. He's like Ken. When you talk to Ken, sometimes he upsets me because we're sitting at a luncheon and he's busy working out numbers or preparing the next scheme. So my brother's like that. You know, you can't talk to him, he's just busy thinking about money. While I'm busy sitting at a function networking and building relationships. But colleagues, it changes. Because in our business, when we went and lost the bank, and the bank dipped and the European operation dipped, my brother didn't know how to deal with it. And who was the person then that my father approached to be CEO, to manage the banks, to manage the investors, to manage it? I had to step in, being the relationship person, you know? And so you can never view the gift as good or bad. To be the more business person or be the relational person, there's no rating. You know, because you're CEO doesn't mean you're better than the person that does relate. And the older we become as CEOs, we know titles mean absolutely nothing, you know, because it can be taken away from you in any case tomorrow. So I think just remember gifts and talents, but those gifts and talents can also be utilized at different times in a business.
All right, do you have any other questions?
Thank you so much, the speakers. Mine is to Wallesa. There's the part of the mushrooming cluster homes and the investment in such. What's your take? You were talking about due diligence and the like. What's your take on someone investing in such arrangements? This is not formal, but informally some say they are paying city council to have approvals which are not correct and the like, in terms of sewer systems and the like. You know, it's mushrooming. What's the future of the cluster homes in Zim from your experience in the property market?
Thank you for that. The issue around cluster homes is generally an issue that has to do with the need for densification. So densification is coming around from, I think you have heard other speakers talking about the issue of the housing backlog. So officially you've got about 1.6 million to 2 million in terms of your housing backlog. So Harare probably has about 1 million. But these are, when you look at official estimates. But when you really look at it, it's probably the number is beyond that. The second thing you then have around population is what was mentioned yesterday. I think Ken spoke about it. Then say when you look at our population, it's a very, very young population, right? Now that young population needs accommodation, right? So not only do they need housing, as in houses to own, but they also need accommodation, places to stay now, even as they are young working people. So you will notice we've got a housing crisis in Harare. In Zimbabwe, in Harare, we've got a housing issue. Right? We've got a accommodation issue, and that issue has to be dealt with. So cluster developments are a response to that need, right? And it is part of councils or government's way to then say, let us densify so that on small pieces of land, we can actually have as many units as is possible. So you will see, for example, if it is going to be a single unit dwelling, if it's going to be a cluster, it has to sit on 500 square meters, right? If it is going to be a duplex unit, then what you probably are looking at is to sit on 300 square meters, that is going to sit on. There were units prior that had already had approval, prior to those laws coming in, that will probably sit on smaller stand sizes. So I think a lot of people are not aware of that. So the permit was already granted, right? So someone had the permit before. So it's not an issue necessarily that you say people are paying council. But for someone to be able to do, for example, if someone is going to do a land development project, they need a subdivision permit, right? If they are going to do a cluster development, they need a development permit. And there are stages that it has to go through for them to get that. Part of what they need to get will be an EIA, environmental impact assessment, that's done. And part of what that involves is going around asking the neighbors whether they were willing to allow you to then have those developments, right? So those are the areas where now people are then saying maybe they are paying off this or they are paying off that. But it becomes an issue where you then say, did people pay off neighbors, right? Or was it done? Or I cannot comment on that. But there is a process that has to be done. So the assumption you've got to make is that for a cluster development to take place, then the development permit is in place. For a land development project to take place, a subdivision permit is in place. And as long as they meet the development conditions. So every permit will have conditions that they are supposed to meet, whether it has to do with sewer, whether it has to do with water. So you will see most of the land development projects that not have title. The main sticking issues are water and sewer. So if you don't have water, you are not going to get a permit. You are not going to get a title deed, sorry. So that's part of what you just have to do when you want even to buy a stand. Go to the development and walk around and then say, where is piped water? There's no piped water, be guaranteed. Never, it's not going to happen. There are instances where maybe stands about 2,000 square meters or 4,000 square meters where council may then say you can drill a bore. They can give exception, but it's very rare when it comes to water. There must be a clear water source for there to be titled. So that's part of the due diligence that you also need to carry out. And then you also need to look at sewer. As long as the stand is less than 1,000 square meters, there's got to be a public sewer, right? Issues to do with septic tanks will be on stands that are 1,000 plus, right? That's where you probably get maybe 800 square meters, they can agree. But anything below that, there needs to be a sewer. So that's part of the due diligence. You just walk around and see whether there's a sewer system. Is there a manhole? That's part of what you need to do. Then go to the offices. Know the offices where these things are issued. Go to council offices. If there's a development permit that you've got, someone is saying to you, we are pre-selling the stands, there's a permit. Go there and you can take, it's a government document. Go to council and inquire. Go to the Department of Public Works with that document and say, I want you to verify for me whether this document came from your office. They will be able to assist you. So that's part of the due diligence that you can carry out. But the final thing you've got to do in terms of due diligence is do a market analysis if you want it to be an investment property. Go around asking about the rentals, right? What is the rent that is being paid in that area? How much are you going to pay? So not only am I going to pay to the developer, how much are you then going to pay in terms of estate agents fees, conveyancing fees, and whatever, up until you get your title deed. That's the figure that you're now using to do your investment appraisal. It becomes very basic. What is the rent that I'm going to get every month, right? You probably just deduct 10% for unseen expenses. You now have your net income. You divide that by your amount that you've invested. You can now get a return. You heard yesterday Ken was talking about 8%. That's a very good return on real estate. But people are not doing this. People just buy. I'm buying it, I want to get rent. You then realize that the rent is probably a return of 4% per annum. Right? After you've bought, you're now coming to the estate agent to then say, make it work. We can't make it work because rentals are market-based. We can't force a rent, otherwise you're going to have void issues. You're not going to have occupancy. So that's part of what you can do. Thank you.
Cool. The way you looked at me.
No. I was looking for the mic that's supposed to be on this side of the room.
Mine is maybe just on a lighter but quite a serious note. Just the underlying message that I got from the various presentations this afternoon and even some yesterday, as CEOs, as leaders, we should exercise ourselves of the spirit of going big unnecessarily. Big houses, big cars, because they can cost us in future. Just drive around Harare. It's unnecessarily big houses, unnecessarily big cars. Going into the future, I think we can save ourselves a lot of trouble and we become more pragmatic. Thank you.
Buildings coming up in Harare. I think the worry is that you find this cluster of 15, perhaps, flats being built on a place where there was a house with 4 bedrooms. So obviously, if there are a number, say in my area, I've noticed about 6, where there used to be 4 people living, 5 people, a family of 6 perhaps, you now have, if it's a 3-bedroom, each time 6, you can tell how many people are now coming to that place. So I think that's where the worry is, even for me when I look at these things, to say, do we have sewer systems that can then carry that number of people in the area? Because you can imagine if 6 are in one small area, what that means. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you, ma'am. So definitely we don't have, the infrastructure will not be there. So you, like what I'm saying, if you then look at some of the permits that are coming out, development permits, they will actually request that the developer expand the existing sewer system or expand the existing road system. For example, for the project that we are managing in Chishawasha, we actually have to expand the Acturas Road from where you have Lafarge, right? About 2 kilometers. We've got to expand that road to make it a four-way road. So those conditions come as part of the permit. So it will be there. So around water, like I said, you've got to have a plan for water. So there's got to be a plan for sewer. In certain instances, they've actually got requirements for road infrastructure. Whether the requirements are met at times becomes another issue, or they are fully met. For example, with roads, you heard what Ken was saying yesterday about the quality of roads. At times you can get a road, but the road will actually not be very good quality. So they will just do it so that they can meet the conditions. So that's part of some of the issues that will be there. That's with some of the technical due diligence. You've got to be able to just perform or get an expert to perform. But in terms of having the existing infrastructure being sufficient to actually take up the density issues, then definitely not. Then the other issue will be an absorption rate issue. There's something that we call an absorption rate in real estate. When you look at the market and you're looking at the number of units that are coming in, one of the things you want to look at, even as you're looking at investing, is what time is it going to take for these units to be absorbed in the market? So it's part of the analysis you also then need to be able to look at whether you're investing in the development itself for it to come out. Because someone is going to bring in 60 units into a certain place. How long is it going to take before those units are taken up, whether you're selling them or what? So if it's going to take you, for example, 36 months, imagine, right, that is cash flow that is tied up, right, in stock without being liquid. So those are some of the things that you can look at. Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Dr. Louis was talking to invest in markets, small amounts if you had them. Do they still have that?
It depends on the definition of small.
No. So I think I spoke to someone a few years back who was saying there's a facility that allows, if you have $100 extra, that would allow you to then maybe buy a stock somewhere, or is that still available?
Yeah, there's an application called Dvia Investment. It's an application. If you're interested, you just download it. I'll give you a code. And then, voila, you can invest directly. You have access to all world markets, mutual funds, so you can select on your own which product you want to put. But it starts from $50.
So, go with me down this rabbit hole. Remember you were talking about me, Gibson paying me while I'm still working for Gibson, yes, right? And then I then have access to this. And that money that he's paying me at that time, instead of me eating it then, I then maybe tap into that. Would that make sense? Would that be something that could help me going forward?
100%. With savings, it's like a baby. Eh? You start crawling and then you can walk later. So start with your $50, graduate to 100, things like that slowly. the idea is to start, but the pay-as-you-go model is where many companies have gone because they've realized that, especially with CEOs. Well, if I'm talking to other people, the language will be different. But CEOs usually have a bigger payment that needs to be made. If you remember the story of Peter Moy versus Old Mutual in South Africa, if you know it. Yeah, it was very, very messy, went right to is it the Supreme Court in South Africa? He wanted 250 million. So if Old Mutual had the wisdom, which I'm sharing with them now, next time they just say, okay, Peter, we'll pay 50,000 a month into a fund. When you are going, then you just withdraw your money and go. That's the point.
All right. Do we have any last burning something? Last. We're good? All right. So please could we give all our presenters from the 2 days a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, has this been a worthwhile summit for you?
Yeah. 100%.
Have you changed the way you view retirement?
Yeah.
Have you changed the way you view generational wealth creation and management? Have you changed the way you play a role in all these elements that we've been talking about, not just for yourself, but for everybody that is reliant on you or reliant on your family name?
Yes.
All right. So if you take a look at your name tags, there's a QR code there. Please scan it. That is just a quick feedback form. We need your feedback so we can actually improve on this product. As we mentioned, this is the inaugural product, all right? So we want to know, how do we make this better for you? How do we make it even more worthwhile for those who still require more help, more information, more connections, all right? How do we improve on that? But most importantly, how do we also then communicate better to those who couldn't be in the room but actually need to be part of these conversations? So that feedback would be very helpful for us. So please do make sure that you fill that out.
Very, very great letter. Let me thank all of you for finding the courage to come here in Nyanga to talk and discuss an unfashionable topic. A topic that most CEOs are not comfortable to talk about. I think the size of the room is a testament that this is not a very comfortable topic. For those that have attended our annual CEOs Roundtable, Dr. Saraje, Mr. Matengampiri and the like, you know that will be plus or minus 400 in the room, CEOs. But here, yes, maybe it's the inaugural one. We hope that the numbers will grow going forward, and also as the good news and the good nuggets continue to spread as well into their ears. So I've got a challenge and a request at the same time. These are your peers. Can you please go and give a report to just 3 of those that are in your circle to say this was the discussion and these are the nuggets, this is what we learned, and I urge you perhaps to do 1 or 3 things. Maybe we can save 1 store, we can save 1 family, we can save 1 enterprise. If I look at the demographic structure of our members at the Roundtable, about 40% of our members are family-owned business, family-owned, family-run businesses. About 30% are quasi-government institutions. All right. Then about the other 30% are corporates, as you know them today. That also perhaps tells a story of the work that we need to do, and also to customize our programs. So like what Mr. Zuze said in his presentation, we have got a program that we've prepared for every member of the Roundtable that is willing to take it upon. And like he said, the first 1 hour is for free, absolutely free briefing on retirement and wealth management issues. It is my hope that you guys that are in the room, you will be the first to take up the opportunity and let us know when you want us to come. It doesn't matter whether you are resident in Bulawayo or in pitfalls. You don't have to pay anything. We'll come there absolutely for free. That leaves me to thank our beloved partner, our all-weather friend NASA, for sponsoring this event. So thank you, my brother Tendai. I think you deserve a round of applause. Let me thank my dear brother or father all the way from Cape Town, Dr. Louis. No, I met Dr. Louis, should be 2 years ago, in Cape Town, when we were doing one of our leadership master classes. And from there, we have continued talking. I met his wife a couple of weeks back, and I can testify that it's a family that is full of firebrands. I really get motivated by talking to them and also listening to the achievements that they've done in life. I won't talk about them because it doesn't want me to, but if I start talking about them, perhaps I need an hour to just go through the milestones that they've achieved in life. So it is actually a privilege to have you in the house, Dr. Louis. I know it's not an easy task to leave your busy schedules to be with us here in the Eastern Highlands of Zimbabwe. Let me thank all our wonderful speakers. Of all the conferences that I've had at the Roundtable, I think we had one of the best speakers during this particular conference. I was talking to some of the delegates that I spoke to, and the feedback is unanimous that we had the powerful brains that were sharing with us here. My sister Manyala, thank you. My brother Sapa. Sapa, I know him from a long way, from his time as SARS, and I was at Buy Zimbabwe, and we tried to do some project on content rating. It failed, but well, we hope this won't fail, it will succeed. And everyone else who managed to come, Norman, Omat and I thank you. The old mutual team, I think they've left. Thank you all guys for sharing your knowledge with us. And you should die empty, or we should rather die empty. And thank you for actually coming to empty what you have during this particular conference. The media team, I thank you. The multimedia team, I thank you. The hotel team, I don't see anyone, I see those guys that are serving us. Thank you very much for the wonderful service. And also, let me not forget my team that I work with. There is Tatenda, Candice, Ropafazo, Patricia, Grina, Justice, and many others that did not manage to come here. Thank you for putting this forward. You know what? It's like when you're organizing a wedding and it comes out top notch. People don't really know that it was really a struggle to put this event together. We were supposed to do the inaugural World Summit last year, and we wanted to put it outside Zimbabwe. Is that correct? Yes. Yeah, but well, what happened happened. But nevertheless, we are here, and we thank God and everyone for that. I wish all of you safe travel back to your various destinations. Please drive safely. Please do not drive during the night. The road is not very...
Ladies and gentlemen, be kind to each other, but please be kinder still to yourselves. We'll see you at the next function. Thank you.